So before we actually start making our first video game by following the Godot documentation, what I'm going to recommend we do first is right click on your desktop, then go to new, and we're going to create a folder. And let's just call it something like Godot Games. And in a moment, you'll see why I'm doing this. I'm creating a folder on my desktop just to make it easier for me to store my files that I'm going to be creating for this project. So here's the folder. And now let's go over to the documentation. So if you go over to the GodotEngine.org website, let's go to Docs. Here we go. Getting started section, and here, your first 2D game. That is the documentation that we are going to follow as we create this game. So on the documentation, there's a section, if you scroll down to the prerequisites, one of the things that it does say is that we do need to download some assets. So it'll be the Dodge the Creeps 2D assets. Let me actually show you what I'm referring to here. So right down here in the prerequisites, we're going to go here, click on Dodge the Creeps 2D assets. It's a zip file. Um, and what you're going to do is you're going to go over to your downloads folder on your Windows computer. A couple of ways you can get to it. One way is you can click on your window, your start window, and just come up here and just do a search for your downloads folder, and there it is. Another thing you can do is just right here in your search bar, if you have it on your taskbar, you can just type downloads right there. Same thing, you'll see your downloads folder. So let's go ahead and go there, and you should see something like this, where you're going to see the Dodge the Creeps 2D assets zip file. We are going to have to extract the contents of this folder. So we're going to, now you're going to see that I have like number 3 here. It's only because I've downloaded it a couple of times, so don't worry about that. But it is called Dodge underscore the underscore creeps underscore 2D underscore assets. We're going to right click on that, and then we're going to extract all. You're going to see a window like this. And just by default, it's going to extract the files to wherever you downloaded that folder. In my case, it's in my downloads folder. Click on extract. And in a moment, you're going to see, here we go. This is the extracted folder that has the assets which we're going to need for the game. If you double click in here, you'll see this folder. Just double click in there. And we are going to need this art folder and this fonts folder. So let's go back to the documentation, and you're going to see when we go to the next page in the setting up the project section of the documentation. Uh, One of the things we have to do is, as it says here, download the zip file, because we're going to be using the art and fonts folder. And what we're going to do is we're going to move that art and fonts folder into our working directory. And that's the reason why I had you create that folder on your desktop, just so that you can kind of follow along with me. So first thing we're going to do now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to launch Godot. In my case, I have a folder already. I have my executable to launch Godot. You can just do the same thing as that you just did a little while ago, where you can just type in, if you've already downloaded the application, all you got to do is just type in Godot, and you're going to click on this one, the Godot stable version, not the console one. You don't have to worry about that. It's the stable one. So let's click on that, and that will launch our Godot. Here we go. And now we're pretty much going to start following the documentation in the from the Godot website. All right, so we're going to start now the setting up the project part of the documentation. So as you saw, we just launched Godot. First thing we're going to do is we're going to click Create. So let's click Create. And since it's our first 2D game, we're going to just name our project name first 2D game. And if you notice in the project path, it's going to automatically give it the name of the project that I gave it up here, but it adds hyphens. Now, remember earlier, I told you to create that Godot Games folder on your desktop, just basically just to make it easy to find. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to click on Browse, and I'm going to click on this little up arrow. You got to click on the desktop folder, and now you're going to see the folders which are on your desktop over here. And here is the Godot Games folder that I created earlier. So I'm going to double click on that. And I'm going to click on select current folder. And I just named my project name first 2D game. And if you notice, the project path is now going to be in that Godot games folder. Leave everything else as is. It should look something like this. And if you go to that Godot games folder that I told you to create, notice how it's empty right now. In a moment, it's going to create a new folder in there that'll be named first hyphen 2D hyphen game. So let's click create, and it's going to launch our Godot project here in just a moment. And here we go. Now let me just show you what doing that did. Go to Godot games, and you'll see that it did create that folder. If I double click, you're going to see there's already files that it created by default that are going to be part of the game creation process. Now, what I want to do is I want to move that fonts and art folder from the extracted zip file, and I'm going to place it in here. So let's go ahead and in my case, I have those folders in the extracted folder, which currently I have in my downloads folder, which is this one, not the compressed one, but this one. I'm going to double click in here, double click in here. Okay, let's click on the Godot Games folder. Let's go to that project folder that was just created for us. And I'm just going to move art and fonts right over. All right. So at this point, our assets are set up in our working directory, which in this case is called First 2D Game. Let's go back to Godot and let's get to work and let's start following the documentation from this point forward, okay? So in order to see the 2D view, which is what we're going to be using, I'm going to click on 2D right up here. And according to the documentation, we're going to click on Project, Project Settings, and then we're going to go to Display. From Display right here, we're going to click on Window, and we're going to set up the viewport width. According to the documentation, this would be 480, and the height is going to be 720. And the next thing is we're going to the stretch right here, the stretch section. And we're going to, under mode, we're going to select canvas items, canvas underscore items. Aspect, we're going to leave as keep. All right, we are now in the organizing the project section. So right here, all we have to do is just click on close. And in the organizing the project section, it says that we're going to make three independent scenes, one called player, one called mob, one called HUD. And we're going to combine them into the game's main scene. So let's start that part of the project. Now, notice how earlier we dragged the art and fonts folder into that first 2D game folder. That is the reason why we see art and fonts here. So if you don't see this here, go back and review that part of the video so you can make sure that you go to the zip file, make sure you've extracted it, and make sure that you've dragged the art and fonts folder into that folder that we created, the first 2D game folder. If you don't see this, there's a chance you might have tried to drag the art and fonts folder from the zipped version of the folder instead of the one that you extracted. So go back and watch that part of the video if you don't see the art and fonts folder right here, okay? So at this point of the documentation, I'm at the creating the player scene. So let's go ahead and start there. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on Other Node. It'll bring up this Create New Node window. We're looking specifically for the Area 2D node that we're going to add to this scene. So I'm just going to type Area 2D, and here we go. Just click on it, then click Create. And according to the documentation, is that it wants us to make sure that when we click on this, and then we come over here, and right here next to the lock, there's this group selected node icon. We're gonna click on this. The documentation will give you more specifics as to why. According to the documentation, it says that the reason we're doing this is because we want to make sure we do not accidentally move or resize any child nodes by clicking on them. So grouping them should keep us from causing any issues when we do add any child nodes. Now we're going to go and click on Scene, Save Scene. We're going to name the scene Player dot tscn. As you can see, the dot tscn should already be there, but that's what it should be called, player dot tscn. Then just click on save. And when I click on save, you're going to see that uh, player dot tscn is going to appear under the file system here. So let's click on save. And there you go. All right. So now I am on the sprite animation section. Now, if you're following the documentation closely, you'll have noticed that I did forget to do one thing. So for those of you that caught on, you've probably already caught this. For those of you who haven't, what I need to do is I need to change the name of the Area 2D node. And in order to do that, I'm going to just double click in there and then just call it Player with a capital P, Player. And now I can continue with the sprite animation section. So I'm going to click on the player node, and I'm going to add a child to this. I do that by clicking on the plus symbol here, and we're going to add animated sprite 2D. So animated, and I'm just going to type in that animated. As you can see, it's already showing up, but I'm just going to go ahead and type in the whole thing, Sprite 2D, and click on it, Create, and notice it automatically gets added as a child under the player node. Now I want to make sure I click on this to make sure on the far right in my Inspector tab, I'm going to go and work on some things over here now. Now, you will notice these little um, caution triangles with the exclamation points showing up. Just ignore those for now. If you're following the documentation, you'll see where it does tell you to ignore them for now. There's a reason for that. It's because um, the reason they're showing up is because there is more setup that we have to do, and that's what we're going through right now. You'll eventually see those little caution triangles go away. So for now, just ignore that. So um, what we're going to do is we're going to click on Animated Sprite 2D if you haven't done so yet. And right here on the right-hand side, um, click under Animated Sprite 2D, go to Sprite Frames, click on Empty. Under New, we're going to click on Sprite Frames. And now we're going to go back here and click on that one more time. And when you do that, notice how the this new window came up over here. This is where we're gonna work with adding our sprites. Okay, the documentation kind of confused me a little bit the first time I saw that. So just remember, you're gonna go under Animated Sprite 2D, under Sprite Frames, where it says New. You're gonna click on New Sprite Frames. You're going to click on Sprite Frames, and when you do so, you're going to click on that again for this window to show up. Okay, at this point, we're going to go over to the left right here under this section here. Click on Default, and we're going to go ahead and just change that to Walk. I'm clicking Enter, and then we're going to click on Add Animation, the Add Animation button, which is this one right here. And we're gonna click on that, and we're gonna rename that to up. Enter. And now we're going to add the player images, which are located over here under that art folder. So let's double click on that art folder, and what we're looking for is the images for each of these animations. So for up, we're actually looking for player gray underscore up one. Let me drag and drop that one over here. And player gray underscore up two, drag and drop right over here. And we're going to do the same for walk. So let me click on walk, and I'm going to drag and drop the player gray walk one and player gray walk two animations. And all we do is we just drag and drop. There we go. Okay. So the documentation actually says that the images are too big for the game window which we're using. So in order to make them look good, we're going to actually scale them down. So what we're going to do is click back on the animated sprite 2D node. So let's click on that, and we're clicking on that so that we can go to the properties. So go now to the far right under the inspector tab. We're going to go under the node 2D section, and right here under transform, make sure that you click on the little arrow so you can expand it. And we're going to go to this area, the scale property, and we're going to change the size of the images to 0.5. So there we go, and it should automatically change both the X and the Y. So there we go. We're done with that part. The next step is to add a new child node, and this new child node is called Collision Shape 2D. So let's go back up here. Uh, click on uh, click on Player, and then click on plus, and we're going to look for Collision Shape 2D. Collision Shape 2D. There we go. Let's click on that, click Create, and here we go. What we're going to do with this is we're actually going to go ahead and add what's called a hitbox around our image. So let's make sure we have this clicked on so that we see the actual properties of collision shape 2D. You're going to come to the right under the inspector tab, and right here under the collision shape 2D section, we're going to go to shape, click on empty, and under this new section, we're going to look for capsule shape 2D. So let's click on that. And you really didn't notice it, but it actually added a little hitbox, which is kind of hard to see right here, right? So what you're going to want to do is zoom in. I have a mouse with a wheel, so I like to use that to kind of scroll in. But if you don't, you just have to click on this little plus minus to zoom in and out. But kind of have to adjust for that, otherwise it's out of view. With a mouse with a wheel, it's much easier because I can just hover the mouse right over, so I can zoom in and zoom out as I'm doing here. But here we go. Here is that collision shape. So what we want to do is we want to use these little handles right here to resize the shape so that it covers the actual image. So let me go ahead and mess with those. And I'm going to come up to about right there. I'm going to bring this out to about right here. And that looks about good to me. I don't exactly want the the hitbox to cover the image entirely. And later on, you'll kind of see why. There's a whole gaming methodology as to why you don't always want to do that. But for now, don't worry too much about that. Just try to kind of look at the documentation. Just follow that. Actually, the documentation does fully cover it. So you know what? I'm going to just go ahead and do what the documentation does. So let's do that here. Okay. All right. And at this point, we should be good to go with our player scene. And if you notice, when we come back and look up here at our player node and the two child nodes, you'll see that there are no more caution triangles, the little triangle with the exclamation point. And that's because we've assigned or set up um, the player with everything necessary minimally to move forward. So let's go ahead and just click on scene and save scene. And we should be good to go to the next part of the documentation. And let me take a quick look just to make sure I haven't missed anything. It looks like we're good to go with the actual creating the player scene section. And the next thing we're going to move to is the coding the player section. So I am now in the coding the player part of the documentation. Right, coding the player, coding the player. So that's the next thing that we're gonna focus on.